so much for joining us. We're going to be talking about glamping and crowdfunding. I'm really honored to have you with us today to talk about your campaign, Janice. And I don't want to spill all of the good stuff, so I'm actually going to just hand it over to you. I would love it if you could briefly, just share a little background about yourself and your project and what inspired you to launch a glamping project. So it's yours. The floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have a pretty checkered background. Everything from a law degree from Columbia University to presently I am working at AWS. I'm an engineering leader for S3, which is a cloud storage service. And yeah, my husband and I, we have been avid campers and hikers, yeah, since I can remember. And we've met recently in life, and we were like, well, what kind of side hustle, what kind of gig would we like to do together? And so, yeah, just our love of nature, our love of, I apologize, I don't know if you'll hear that pinging. Let me put this on focus here. Uh, there we go. And so, yeah, we decided why not build our ultimate campground. We definitely love kind of the isolation of being in nature. We do a lot of reserve camping, dispersed camping. And so we wanted to create that sort of environment where you feel like you're out ensconced in nature on your own. But for any chicks out there, the toilet pain is real. And so to have the combination of, being immersed in nature, but also having a bidet at my beck and call, was pretty much the ultimate combination. So yeah, that's where it started.
So, okay, when did you actually come up with the idea? You have the idea, but then there's like, we all have ideas. When did you pull the trigger and say, you know what, let's actually do it? Because you have ideas and we daydream, and then there's the, you know what, no, let's do it. So I'd love to understand that.
Yeah, I in during the pandemic, and there was a lot going on, and during that time period in terms of a lot of political strife, a lot of racial strife. I just did a solo trip on my own to get away from it all. And I spent some time in Leavenworth. My husband up to that point was very much he wanted to buy land. I was very much a nomadic. I've been traveling all around the world. Rarely settled down in a place for longer than a year. So I was very resistant. But after that trip in Leavenworth and really being able to connect to nature, really being able to find that grounding, I was convinced. And from there, I'm definitely the executor in our relationship. So once it was a go from my perspective, it was just a go. It took us about 2 years to find the right parcel, but yeah, that required a certain level of commitment to find that as well.
That is wonderful. And so, I have so many questions for you. How did you go about validating the idea for this project? How did you go about and say, you know what, okay, because anyone can just buy land and everyone can have the idea, but how did you validate that there was a need for this, that there was an audience? Like what was that process?
Yeah, I did rely heavily on this idea of a prototype, right? Coming from a tech background, it's very much like, hey, build a prototype and then pitch it and see who actually puts down cash. And so it's a bit different, right, in the experiential hospitality realm. Building your prototype is, putting together some renderings. But I think it requires more than just renderings today to convince folks to actually put money down, right? They need to see that you own the land. They need to see that you have permits. And so a prototype, I think today is a bit more complicated than a prototype was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But once that prototype was put together, then you pitch it. You pitch it to the audiences that you think resonate with the category that you were designing. Our category happens to be forest cocooning, and I had some ideas about who that concept would resonate with. And so you test it out using advertising and you see who actually puts money down.
Amazing. And we actually just had Meredith join us, so I'm going to let her in as well and promote her to panelist. Our other glamping panelist. And okay, so you validated the idea and you saw that there was an audience. Hi, Meredith, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Greta.
I'm going to get to your intro in a second. We're rolling a little bit. So you validated the idea. You saw that forest cocooning, there's a market for it, and I love that. How did you decide Indiegogo and crowdfunding? Because there's so many different ways that you can fundraise or, raise, investors or roots or like how you would do it. So why did you choose crowdfunding? Why did you choose Indiegogo?
Yeah, crowdfunding was a tough choice. It requires a significant amount of investment to find the folks that are interested in your project. And then once you've raised the money, you've got to deliver. So it's not a decision, right, that one makes lightly. But I think there are so many advantages. I think we're at 98% capacity for our first season. I think we're around 40% for our season next year. That's invaluable, right? When you're building something, when you're investing literally millions of dollars, it's nice to know that there's an audience, and that's what crowdfunding can provide. I think Indiegogo was pretty much the only choice. I mean, I think they've got a great history with regard to being able to draw the audiences that are interested in nature micro resorts. And there's a lot of features that I really appreciated, the secret perks being one, because you nurture the guests, right, along this very long journey. And so you want to be able to ensure that they're rewarded. And I think that secret perks offering that Indiegogo has helps you reward the folks that have been with you from the beginning.
I love that. Absolutely. And it's so good to see that you're also using all the features and that you explore different options to find the right one for you. Meredith, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, which is okay. Meredith, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about yourself, your background, and then your project, your glamping project and journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Meredith here. So I started a real estate vacation rental company in 2018 called Stay Minty. So that's kind of what got me into the vacation rental space. Nashville was just starting to really pop when it comes to vacation rentals. Now, of course, it's known as one of the, best investment places for vacation rentals. But I did start that in 2018, and then during COVID, obviously there was a lot of time to reflect and think of, look around, see what the needs are in the marketplace in terms of hospitality, vacation rentals, and that whole world. And that's when I found glamping. And I had known about it before, but that was when you could really tell that there was demand for this type of product. And there was all types of people that were going glamping all of a sudden. And these places were just completely sold out. Rates were very high, like many other things during that time. But that's what inspired me to then build the glamping resort that I have, which is in East Tennessee. So I built that during COVID, very expensive building costs during the time, as many people know. So there was some advantages and disadvantages during that period of time, but got that up and running. And then, it's a great business. I wanted to pivot a little bit after what I've learned from the glamping domes. And that's when I decided to start Stellara, which is the project that I launched on Indiegogo. And that is tree houses and mirror houses. So kind of pivoting a little bit from non-insulated type of structures over to just more viable structures that can be, not so seasonal. Maintenance becomes a little bit different. Catering to a higher end customer is a little bit easier when you have, insulated type situation. So kind of really finding the balance of mixing being in an outdoor environment with still the resort luxury. So that's really then how I got to Solara.
Very nice. And so why did you choose crowdfunding to launch it? Why did you choose Indiegogo?
So I've seen the success that you guys have had with glamping and real estate projects throughout, I guess, probably the last 24 months, maybe a little bit longer. I think your first one was the Bubble Hotel in I think it's Palm Desert or Palm Springs. So I've kind of been seeing it and seeing the success and, you know, quite honestly surprised, just like, wow, this is interesting that, with renderings that there is an audience who will, prepay to get on board with a discount, become one of these founders. So that's what really, got me interested in doing it. And to Janice's point, along the same lines, it's really cool to be able to open up a resort and have a significant amount of bookings. And these people are definitely taking a little bit of a risk because they are purchasing off renderings. So they're getting a pretty nice discount, becoming a finder, and there's perks in that. But it does create a really cool relationship because, I've definitely had a very personal touch with these, VIPs and people that booked. And yeah, hopefully these people are, customers for life, kind of going through that process with you. So that's really what made me go in that direction. And it's been nice to have those bookings.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm happy like now we're all brought up to speed. So I would love to know from both of you, and Janice, maybe you can go first. You know, neither of you had done a crowdfunding campaign before. This is both of your first time launching a glamping project, glamping, build all of that. How did you build the team and so how did you build the audience and marketing initiative leading into the launch of the campaign? And did you do it all yourself or did you work with an agency? Did you work with a freelancer? So I'd love to hear, how you built that audience, how you built the awareness for the campaign.
Yeah, I can take this one first. I know Meredith and I are both part of the Launch Boom cohort.
Mm,
Um, and so I think they've changed their model from agency to more of kind of a guide. So you do end up doing, I would say 98% of the work yourself. But yeah, going through their process, you create the landing page. You create, some sort of private group on social media, and from there you nurture those relationships. Very much in accord with Meredith that those folks that take that leap of faith, who put down that $50, that's where 90% of my investment went, in terms of making sure they were up to date, keeping them apprised of different construction progress, of even involving them in some of the design decisions that we went through. And so yeah, cultivating those relationships and making sure like they're with you every step of the way was probably the strongest factor in terms of converting someone who put down $50 to actually booking a stay.
wow, amazing. And so, sorry, I just want to follow up with that. When we talk about building the audience, did you do paid media? How did you get people to the group? How did you get people to the landing page? What did you do? Like, did you just post to your social channels, friends, family? I'd love to know that. And then Meredith, I want to pass it to you.
Yeah, I personally leveraged Facebook advertising alongside with our Instagram feed.
Okay, cool. Meredith, I'd love to know what you did to, like, who you brought on and who you worked with and how you created it and how you got, the brand awareness, project awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. So same, Launch Boom. They definitely have a lot of experience with marketing for these types of projects. There's very specific kind of funnels that need to be created to drive the traffic in the right direction. So it's Facebook ads, it's, configuring a MailChimp journey and campaign to follow these people. I mean, if you're not emailing them, this is a long, this is a long journey of marketing. So, you got to stay in front of them with emails. And then of course, social, organic social, paid social. And just really staying in front of them. And same Facebook VIP group is once people become a part of your campaign and they're saying, okay, I'm interested, it's keeping them updated and making sure that they know, this project is definitely happening, it's going live. Yeah, but from a marketing standpoint, as far as the team, it is definitely a little bit more involved than I had initially anticipated. So yes, it takes
It's a
other
lift.
humans besides just me. Yeah, so I had to get someone to just assist with the Facebook ads and marketing. I had to get someone to assist with the email journeys. We were constantly doing a lot of email campaigns. And then towards the end, when we were gearing up, the Facebook group got really, really intensive in terms of time for me. And I did have to have someone help me just answering all of the questions and all of the comments on it. It did get a lot because I don't know how many VIPs you ended with, Janice, but I think we had about 1,850 or 1,900 in our Facebook group. And I mean, that's a lot of people. So it definitely going into it is like, yeah, you're gonna have to have help. You're gonna have to have a little bit of a team. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love to hear this though, that that you had the problem of too many people. That's a good problem to have. And so, with that, I have, a follow-up question of what obstacles did you face once you launched the campaign? Something that like unexpected that you didn't know or, that came up. And then maybe another question, if you didn't have like a specific obstacle, something known in the crowdfunding space is called the mid-campaign plateau, because you build the community, you have people excited, you launch, you have that early momentum, and then you usually have this plateau where it kind of just like levels out. What did you do to break the plateau, and what other obstacle did you face beyond that? And how did you overcome it?
You want to take this one first, Meredith?
sure. I mean, there's plenty of obstacles like anything else. I mean, launching a resort is definitely challenging in many aspects, but I would say the biggest kind of hurdle and challenge was getting this Facebook group and all of my VIPs and getting them really understanding that this project is happening. I think that going into it, like I'm a developer, like I know how long projects take. I understand the process. Well, the normal person doesn't understand that there's so much invested before you actually see footers and piers coming out of the ground. So for them, they see a piece of land and it's like, is this really going to happen? So that was the biggest obstacle, was just proving myself. And I have, two active businesses that have been around for a while in the same world of hospitality. And I know that, several people don't even have that. And that became a challenge even to say, guys, we are real. That we are doing this. We deliver on our projects. We have proof. And so that was definitely a constant struggle, was staying in front of those people that were skeptical and really just like vetting yourself and the public and making sure, that they got it. So that was way more challenging than I would have thought at all from the beginning.
And what about the mid-campaign plateau? Did you experience that or did you not experience that?
Oh yeah, totally. And I think by what we ended up doing is we did extend the campaign to create more excitement and give people more time, and that really helped so that we got the ending. But I don't think I was really ready for that. So yeah, for someone coming into this, I would have plans for that. Like what possible creative marketing solutions you could do during that period, because I definitely wasn't prepared, I would say. I mean, I just kept doing email campaigns to obviously all of the VIPs, and it takes a while for people to see the email too. I mean, it sounds crazy. You can send 20 emails and you'll still get responses. No one told me your campaign was live,
Yeah.
So just sending the emails over and over and trying to figure out a way to, figure out who's purchased, condense your email list to get those people out so you're not completely bugging them, and just continue to inform and update the people that haven't purchased. Because I think you'd be surprised how many people are still interested. They just literally haven't had the time or seen one of your 20 emails.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And so what about you, Janice? What obstacle did you face and how did you overcome, the mid-campaign plateau if you had one?
I think probably one of the biggest obstacles was education. I think a
Mhm.
lot of folks who um, are interested, right, in this kind of experiential stay are not necessarily in the Indiegogo crowdfunding realm. Typically, right, when you think of Indiegogo, you're thinking more along of movie projects or tech. And this just brings, I think, a completely different persona, right? Completely different person. And so for folks who are coming in with a very traditional paradigm of, hey, I put down money and I choose my dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is very different, right? You're asking them to put down money and they have no idea what dates are available. So I think, being very clear and transparent about this opportunity is for folks who have date flexibility, and in return for that date flexibility, this is the savings that you realize. Being able to communicate that message clearly, and I will say that I failed in the beginning at doing that, but definitely refined that messaging as I went along. I think that really helped, one, establish the trust, and then two, just get folks on the same page about what crowdfunding is. Um, I think in terms of that midpoint, another challenge that I had too was just, you're flooded with offers from everybody who's promising the moon, right? After you experience that first day nirvana of, ooh, wow, this actually worked. And then there's the cliff. And so there's a lot of folks, right, that come around and say they have solutions, more paid advertising, PR. And so kind of weeding through those folks and figuring out who can do what. Ultimately, I'm very frugal. So ultimately I chose to just go it alone. Um, but that's another challenge too, right? I think it's almost a narcotic, right, to check how many funds are raised. And there's a very big temptation to just throw more money at it to see if you can get a bigger raise. And so resisting that. And again, understanding your bottom line, understanding what your margins are, reality quickly sits in. And so, yeah, I realized that I had to do a little bit more grassroots, like focus more on the grassroots type of reach outs versus having like some agency help out.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that's important to, acknowledge as well. And it's very interesting. I want to just, point out both of you had some similar challenges that you face, yet in terms of credibility and saying that it's going to happen and, talking about dates and, all of these different things, but yet you both come from very different backgrounds. Meredith, yourself, you said you come from the real estate background, you're doing this, you're like, look, I have a business. I assure you. And, Janice, you're like, look, we're new, but we have the land, we have, the projects, we have the builder, we have all these things. We're also serious. No matter what you do when you launch a glamping project, and I'm going to actually say this, that no matter which project you launch on crowdfunding, there is a massive barrier of education and credibility. Credibility is one of the number one things that you see people, it's hard to build trust with people, yeah, you'll be here in 2 years, so it's, the glamping project will be done in 1.5 years, 2 years. So I think that's really interesting and I appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to ask one more question and then I'm going to open it up to the group, because I think that, we have such a small intimate group that I would love to have this be more of a roundtable conversation and be able to answer personalized questions for everybody. I actually really am interested to know, what role did the visuals and storytelling play in conveying the experience of your glamping project and converting? And what I mean by that is, unlike tech projects and these other physical products where you have a prototype and you can show it working, in your case, you don't have that prototype. You are going off of more of the renders and, what the architects maybe built you and showing the land. So what did you do to really showcase to the best of your ability the project and to give the full experience and the feeling of it? And to do the video, and what role did your logo and storytelling or personal stories play in this as well? Whoever wants to take it first.
I can take
All
it.
right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a huge proponent, believer in category design. And so definitely from the very beginning, the category that we were defining that we want to own, which is of course forest cocooning, was definitely weaved throughout everything, like from, the landing page to what we post in Facebook to what's on our Instagram feed. So I would say that being able to craft that story and to be able to, to your earlier point, right? There have been projects like ours on Indiegogo that have not produced, right? They have not been successful. And so the expectation and kind of that ability to establish creds, right, just gets higher and higher and higher. And I think by having that category in mind, by thinking about exactly how you're going to serve your guests, of thinking about exactly the experience that you're going to give your guest, helps with creating that credibility, helps with them being able to see themselves with what you're offering, but also to differentiate it from some of the other projects that may not have been as successful. So yeah, everything from the logo, from forest cocooning to the structures that we're building to, we talked earlier about being ensconced in a forest, like all of that plays together to be able to create like this coherent experience that the guests can immediately wrap their brains around.
I love that. And Meredith, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, super important to get high quality renderings, obviously, because it doesn't exist. So I mean, you've got to have that. I did a video that was of the resort that was totally renderings. It was like a 3-minute video created out of, basically just digital renderings of what we're proposing the entire resort to look like. That was really helpful. We use that for some social media. Um, I mean, I think that it's a really important investment to make if you're going to do a campaign like this. And, to Janice's point, for sure, trying to figure out what's differentiating yourself from, other products and, making sure that that's called out in all of your design and renderings. But yes, I mean, that was a pretty big investment too. I mean, getting all of that stuff created and making sure it was also very honest as to what the product was going to end up looking like. Um, and that can be challenging because this is obviously a brand new project. You're literally building it, developing it with the audience. So it's that balance of, really having your vision very, very clear and vetting it out with the contractors and with the architects and the structural engineers before you just like post something and figure out, oh yeah, you can't, put a hot tub, 35 feet in the air on this deck without spending $200,000. Well, that's not going to work. Things like that. So just making sure you've really vetted out your own project first, and that, okay, this is buildable for the cost I'm looking to do. Because once you go out with those renderings, I mean, people are going to expect it. Like, for example, we had the graphic artist put some lights on the top of our rooftop deck. Well, Stellara is a stargazing resort. We're offering computerized telescopes, and you want it to be dark during stargazing, but the little lights on the deck look so cute. Well, someone called us out and they were right. We are actually not intending to put lights there. It's like those little details. I mean, you really got to comb through every single thing and make sure that, this is it, you're ready to go. And then, of course, explain to the audience that there could be some minor changes, that it is not being built. So all of that goes into the whole process of the creative.
One thing
Absolutely.
that I want to point out that I think Meredith did really well, I the glass cabins, right? I mean, there was the first round that Indiegogo had, which was a unfettered success. And then there are other projects that have come along that are doing the mirror cabins, and there are many more coming down the pipeline. And I think what Meredith did really well was, again, differentiating her project from the others by focusing on astronomy, by focusing on astrology. And it was a really great niche that I think spoke to folks, so that despite competition, despite prior successes, she was still able to stand out and have a great race.
Love that call out. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's definitely one thing that I put a lot of time into is saying, okay, let's create a brand out of this project and not just real estate, right? So what is the entire hospitality offering? And that's hard to communicate via, a fundraise over rendering. So thanks.
Amazing.
Success.
Beautiful. And I love that it's, that you both are supporting each other in this space, and that even within the world of glamping, there's so many different niche categories that you can go into. And it speaks volumes to how important it is to speak to know your audience. You need to know your audience, because it's not just, oh, we're doing glamping. There are so many different niches and facets and levels of glamping, of, entry level to premium, high end, expensive resorts. So that is beautiful. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to keep recording, but just so that everyone knows, I'm going to cut the video. So we will see your names, but I will cut the video so that when it's posted, we won't see your name. So I'm going to allow everyone now to join. Please be respectful of one another. We are still a small group, but still. All right. I'm allowing everyone to talk. So thank you to everyone. David, Jocelyn, Kyle, and I hope I pronounce it correctly, Monse. I would invite you one by one to ask your question to either Meredith, Janice, or myself at Indiegogo, but I'm going to hand it over to you. Jocelyn, I see you turned off your mic first.
Oh, hi, everyone. Thanks for putting this on. Really interesting. I have 400 acres and I started a guest ranch spa in 1991. So it was all approved for camping. And then I got it approved for having a mountain spa. My background is I'm a registered massage therapist, and I learned hydrotherapy at the West Coast College of Massage and wanted to have like a hydrotherapy setup. We've got natural springs up here. And I recently, when I saw your post, I was seeing also, because I was looking at campgrounds and having hip camp, and recently Airbnb offered you could have a campground. I've got 400 acres. A lot of it is flat land, beautiful views. I thought maybe I could do some teepees because I lived in a teepee once and I love living in a teepee.
Huh?
So that's sort of my background story. And I would like to, possibly, I'm launching another product on Indiegogo. So I was at the launch boom and, really appreciate all that information. But being on a tight budget, I like the word frugal that Meredith mentioned, I believe, because, you have to be frugal and to succeed. And so I would like to possibly look at doing a glamping up here at my mountain spa where I run an Airbnb, but I get a lot of guests that aren't really what I was looking for. I was more looking to operate it as an educational retreat and offer workshops here on my medical background, which is acupressure massage. So.
Oh, thank you. Do you have I so appreciate you sharing the background, and it's such a great journey, and it sounds like, you're set up for success. Do you have a specific question you would like to ask?
Yeah, I was wondering what my question could be more.
So you can also wait
to experience, what other people have done and how to succeed, and already a lot of good information there, and a lot similar to the campaign I'm already trying to launch on Indiegogo for a medical device. So it's just, getting over the fear. Also the pricing, Meredith, I did go to your, I think it's, can you pronounce it for me? Menendez
And Janice.
Hi, Janice. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with Meredith.
No worries. Not at all.
I was there a couple of weeks ago in this glamping workshop, and I watched, and I was really surprised at the pricing that you could get from people, and then how few people it took to get such a large raise. And I was, wow, are people willing to pay that amount for this experience?
Yeah, I think Indiegogo is proof.
How did you come up with that kind of pricing? and affordability. I mean, we're both frugal people. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand how, that there's people out there who can afford it, or how do you target your Facebook advertising to find people and support your campaign? I mean, it's hard to do. And it sounds like you did a lot of it on your own with your husband.
Mhm.
Yeah, no hubby. He's the brawn of the couple. But yeah, I think this goes back to what we were sharing earlier with regard to knowing your audience. Um, I think for myself, I actually, some folks are like, figure out who your guest avatar is and then cater to them. I've got a hot take on that. I always start with the category first and then figure out who that category would resonate with. And so yeah, you go into this. I mean, it sounds like you also are frugal minded. So once you understand your budget, once you understand your building costs, once you understand your operating costs, you should have a very clear idea of what margins you can anticipate. And so from there, it's like you're working from two angles, right? One angle is, okay, I want to offer forest cocooning and I want to offer it at this level. Who are the guests that I think would be interested in the experience that I'm creating? And then on the other side, you've got the practicalities, right, of a budget that you need to work within. And so, yeah, I was aggressive with regard to margins because I understood that to be able to deliver a sauna that's on the Strait of Juan de Fuca, which requires infrastructure, which it's a significant cost, right, to make that, to realize that and make that happen. You've got to kind of stick to your guns and to see really what you're building is something that people will purchase. And so I think the other side of that is, when I'm talking about who do I think will enjoy forest cocooning, it's not just forest cocooning, right? But forest cocooning that it does cost a substantial amount of money, right? To come and visit us. And so who's going to invest that kind of money for that kind of experiential stay? And so for us, right, we're thinking, okay, folks that are celebrating very special occasions. So folks that are celebrating anniversaries, folks that are proposing, folks that are eloping. So we very much went after couples who are looking for an extraordinary stay and are willing to invest in such. The other target market, which, I mentioned I'm from in terms of working at AWS, there's a lot of tech folk, right? There's a lot of tech folk people who move specifically to the Pacific Northwest to work in tech, and they'd like to experience nature, but they're not sure where to get started. So those are folks with discretionary income that don't mind paying more to kind of be spoon-fed, right? Walk along the journey of what it means to be immersed in nature. So again, my recommendation is twofold. One, figure out what your category is, and then figure out who would be attracted to that category at the price point that you're offering it. And then at the other side of the equation, make sure you know your margins, make sure you understand your costs so that when you take into consideration the cost of advertising, the cost of being able to keep folks involved, the renderings, the builds, you still have a margin where you can actually deliver what you promise.
Absolutely. Meredith, do you have something you want to add? Because I'm going to piggyback on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was well said for sure. The only thing I would add would just be, you do want to see, market results and viability. So definitely looking at your competitors and then to her and seeing what they're charging. What are they doing? I mean, obviously all this is very new and nuanced and creative. So it's trying to find the closest competitor. I mean, it might be, a dome and you're building a treehouse or, whatever it is, but trying to find as many comps as you can to then obviously model some sort of forecast with a nightly rate and an occupancy. I mean, if you don't have a forecast, and how much you think you're going to do in the 12 months after launching and in the second year, then, to Janice's point, knowing your margins and your costs, you're just not going to know what your profit potential is. And you got to know your numbers. Like you got to come into this with exact numbers of what you can expect. And there's going to be a lot of movement, obviously, as things progress and as you learn more. But I mean, you've got to start there with the numbers for sure.
I mean,
I actually disagree with that. Get a little controversy going here.
So it's a debate. It is an interesting debate. I think it's about the background, but you do need to know. I'll add something else. So my background is from helping tech startups in the health and wellness space launch. And one of the things that happens about forecasting and knowing the numbers and knowing the margins is you're selling a product, a service, an experience before you launch. And so it's before you go to manufacturing. And one of the issues that I had experienced on multiple occasions was with the tooling and the manufacturing for production of the product, it took longer than expected, which was something that had to be conveyed. And it cost more in the manufacturing in the long run because it needed to use different molds, which were not forecasted and not anticipated. And we needed to use different packaging and different materials, and it adds up. So there is an element that you need to build into the finance forecast as the buffer, because you don't know necessarily what those unforeseen costs are in the future. That's also something to build out. But I want to hand it back to Janice for a second. I want to hear why she says no. It's very interesting. It's a good conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Meredith and I are pretty much lockstep, but I will say that I don't know that comparing yourself to the competition is the way to define your pricing. I think if you, and whether or not Meredith has done this intentionally, when you create your own category, I think you also have the ability to create your own pricing. If I had followed the pricing of other folks who were building a product similar to what we're building, I would not have been able to raise what we raised, right? So I do think it's important to think about creating something new and different. And then when you create new and different, you don't have competitors, and therefore you can define your own pricing.
I like that attitude. You want to follow up on that or no?
Yeah, I mean, I treat every business that I'm going to go into as if I need to go out and raise money with investors. If you're going to talk to investors, private equity groups, any type of financing, arm, whether it's an audience with Indiegogo is a little bit different, but you need some sort of revenue model, some sort of forecast, some objective. I guess the disagreement is like looking at comps. Well, comps to me are just the market landscape, right? I mean, it's basically what's the demand, who's in demand in this area. Obviously, real estate and location is going to make a huge difference as to what you can and cannot charge. And I think that Janice was really smart in her comment about having a tech community close by. Well, I mean, if you're building if you're building something like this outside of a big city, an hour away, your potential nightly rate is going to be very different, I think, than in the middle of nowhere where, there might not be, customers have to drive maybe 8 hours to get into the middle of the forest. So all of these things play into trying to figure out that nightly rate. And it's very complicated when you're talking about a new product category. And like we just mentioned, like a remote locations versus not. So all of these things play into effect of trying to figure out that nightly rate. And yeah, you should start higher than you think if you are in a category that doesn't exist. I mean, there is going to be some estimated, some guessing a little bit. But I think my point to the question that was asked was because it sounded like she was still in this kind of world of figuring out what she wants to do and how to begin. Well, how to begin, get your financial forecast and picture, just get that laid out and then try to prove it to someone. And how are you going to do that? You are going to need market data and market research and just do all that stuff. Know your potential landscape and potential outcome so that you have a vision and a forecast of where you want to go.
Absolutely. And so I actually want to also touch on, these are such good points. And I love this debate and the conversation. And I love that you two both come from such different backgrounds. So you can bring two different viewpoints. I think it's so invaluable. And when we talk about audience, I think it's important, Jocelyn, you mentioned, who is this? Like, who is this person that's coming? And something that I've done as like a role play with founders in the past is create a persona, create a person. So do the research. If you want to do TPs, for example, if this is what you're thinking, you know, build that experience in your mind and, you know, what would that look like? And then who would that person be? What is their name? Where do they live? Why are they coming? What is the reason that they're coming? Are they coming alone with their family, as a group, you know? And so to really put together that person and their reason for why they would come to your experience, and then talk to them about the experience, imaginary, your imaginary friend here, your imaginary client, but talk to them and share, you know, what it is and what you offer and what they will experience. And this sort of helps you start to work out what it actually is. And it all becomes more clear as well, who that audience is and where you will find them and why they would come within that messaging. So I think that's all really important information. Yeah. Does anyone else, can you raise your hand if you have another question that you would like to ask? We had some people drop off. Okay, so no hands raised. Meredith, Janice, you both are amazing. Do you have anything else that you would like to add or share, or any, you know, your biggest piece of learning or advice, or, you know? No, putting you on the spot.
Well, no. Yeah, I think I shared mine, which was really being clear about the value that's being offered, right? That's being exchanged. I didn't hone that in until probably midpoint of like, hey, the traditional model that you're accustomed to um, doesn't apply here. Date flexibility in exchange for deep savings. So I think that was probably my number one learning.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree with that. I'm trying to think what's up there. You know, the credibility piece is what I've already mentioned, but really it goes along with explaining to people that they're not going to get dates when they buy. I mean, that just blows their mind. So, you know, be prepared for that.
I think
That,
it's preparation. How much preparation can you do in advance? Be prepared for questions, be prepared for people to pick it apart, be prepared for people to have opinions, and be prepared for, I think, you know, a big community. But I think, I don't know how much you're starting to experience this, but when do you both say that the first visitor will come to your glamping resorts?
July 17th for me.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And
we're June 14th.
okay, so not so far, but how was it to actually manage like the post campaign to when they're going to get the dates? Like, were people messaging you all the time, or were they patient, or how did you manage that?
I think once they had their dates, all was fine. Yeah. What about you, Meredith?
I mean, yeah, same. It's like the second, you better be prepared to make sure exactly when these people are getting their dates and you're getting their perks filled and having those dates ready. So that was just managing, again, expectations on, if you purchase 5 nights, you're going to get your dates on this, 3 nights, you're going to get your dates then. So yeah, but once people see, oh, okay, 5 nighters are getting booked, this is happening, I'm going to get dates, I think, yeah, that's when things calm down.
Incredible. Well, thank you both so much. Do you have anything else that you would like to add, or anything else you would like to share? You know what I didn't ask that I would love to know? How did you come up with the name? Each of you, how did you come up with the name for the project, the glamping site?
Did you want to go, Meredith, or?
Oh, I can. I'll go first. So my name was Stargazer Resort to start. It was not trademarked. We went after the trademark and seemed like it was going to be, pretty viable since no one else had it. Beginning of the campaign, I found out that someone else has it in the area, that they're using it in a very, very, very small way, and they did not want to see me use the name. So instead of fighting it and, worrying about it, I did have to change all of my creative a few months into the campaign, actually a good 5 months into the campaign. And then that's where I got the name Stellara, was just doing a ton of research, being creative, trying to, this time I was like, I'm going to get a name that there is like creative, that doesn't really mean anything. That's a mix of some words. And so I think it sounds good. It just really
It's
flowed.
beautiful. I
Once
think
I
it's
heard
way
it,
better than what you've had originally.
thank you. And I actually did too. Yeah. So turned a problem into a great outcome. So yeah, that's my story.
Nice. We named the I keep saying we. I named the campground after our most prolific resident on the parcel, which is the Douglas fir. And the Douglas fir's scientific name is Pseudomenzii. So I just
Hmm.
shortened a bit to Menazai.
I like
Cool.
that. Very simple. And I actually see that one person raised their hand. Montese, can you type your question in the chat? And if not, where can we find your campaigns? I would love to see the perks you offered. Yes, we can share those. Actually, you want to drop them in the chat real quick? Each of you. Pull the campaigns up.
Yeah, mine's still up.
Yeah, I believe, yeah, everything is still up.
I gotcha, Meredith.
Oh, you already sent mine?
The first one's Meredith's, and then the
Perfect.
second.
Oh, thanks.
Two.
Oh, I think they're
Incredible.
both first.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you both so much. And I'm also going to share that here really quick so we can open that. Yep, I'm just going to send it to you right here. There you go. There's this one. And here we go. So I'm just going to do that and then I will, there you go. Excellent. So everyone is covered. Thank you so much. You both are incredible. You both are amazing. We're going to send a follow-up email to everyone who RSVP'd with the recording of the webinar, as well as an email to reach out to our team at Indiegogo with any follow-up questions. Janice, Meredith, do you want to be available for more questions for individuals looking to launch the campaign or not? We can take
Absolutely
that
not.
offline.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yes.
Wonderful. So I'll share that for, the individuals who attended the call. And yeah, that's great. So I really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful day and upcoming weekend. And
Thanks so much, Sid, for having us. This was really been fun.
And congratulations on the success. I can't wait to come visit.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.